My name's Landon Nelson. I am 23 years old and I work at a metal recycling yard that's owned by my uncle. There I operate forklifts, other types of machines to recycle the metal that people bring to us. They bring refrigerators, old cars, copper wire, all different grades of metal. We unload it from their vehicles, pay them for it, and then we sell the metal to refineries. Some of my hobbies, what I like to do in my free time. So I work a lot of hours. I think I'm at like 55 hours a week right now. And my hobbies, there are things that I like to do, but the things that I like to do kind of change depending on the time of year, because when it's winter and it's dark by the time I get home from work, I tend to not do very much. But I love to play a card game called Magic the Gathering. Just a really super nerdy card game that I play with my friends, and that's how we bonded. I also really enjoy photography. Like I said, that's one of those things I can't do during the winter as much, because when I get home it's dark, so it's kind of difficult to go and take pictures. But I love to take pictures of landscapes, nature. I just like being outside to take pictures. And I also am a very amateur longboarder, skateboarder. So when I have time for that, I do that too. So my mom and my dad, and I'm the oldest of 4 kids. There's me, my younger sister Marin, and then my younger sister Libby, and then my younger brother Tanner. So us siblings, we're all like really different from each other. We're very different personalities, but we all love each other and we get along despite all of our differences. My little brother is very sporty, which I kind of was in high school, so I guess we bonded there, but he has a lot more friends than I do or I ever had in high school. He's very popular. And my sister Libby was kind of the bookworm. She spent a lot of time reading and did way better in school than I did. And then my sister Marin really liked anime and loved to draw and paint and stuff like that, so she was a lot more artsy. And that was somewhere kind of in between all of them, where I played a lot of sports, but I also liked to read, and I also liked to do some nerdier things like my sister, but I guess I was a little bit more of a jack of all trades, master of none, because I wasn't that great at any of them. So what was my mission like, and how hard was it, and how did I get through the hard times? So it was, how was it? It was amazing. It was probably the happiest I've ever been in my entire life. I really, really enjoyed it. And when I say that, you might think, oh, then it must have been easy, right? Like if you were so happy and you loved it so much, then it must not have been that difficult. And I think that actually the opposite is true. It's because it was so difficult and because it was so hard that I loved it so much, because I could feel myself growing, and I could feel myself developing into a stronger version of myself. And some of the things that made France difficult is it's a extremely agnostic country. That means that not a lot of people really believed in God, and those that did weren't Christian. There were a lot of other religions there. And I love all those people. And that was actually what got me through the hard times. Was when I would get, sad and want to come home, I would just think about how much I loved the people, and how much I loved France, and how much I loved speaking the language, and how much I loved, being there. And it was that love, thinking about other people and not thinking about myself, that got me through it. Because when I was focusing on the people around me, I started to forget my own problems and my own anxieties and the things that were making me sad. And that was something I tried to do throughout my whole mission, was love everybody. But it's not always easy when people slam things back in your face and tell you that what you believe is wrong or stupid, or when you grow up to be their age, you'll understand that all of this is just a joke and religion is a waste of time. And it's hard to have your beliefs questioned on a daily basis, almost having we had our beliefs questioned on an hourly basis. it seemed like everybody there was out to do kind of what we were doing, but on the reverse, it seemed like people were trying to get us to stop believing in our religion. So that it was really difficult, but the love that I had for those people outweighed all of that. So okay, so how was learning French, and how hard was it, and how it was coming back to speaking English? Well, I don't know how much the person or the people watching this video, I don't know how great of like an understanding of how missions work for the people watching this video, but basically we're sent out in pairs of 2, and we're always with a companion. And the very first companion that I had, so the very first person, the first other missionary I was living with in France, I was actually Belgium. He was French, and he didn't speak any English, and his name was Elder Bees. And when I say he didn't speak any English, he studied English in school for like 4 or 5 years, but he couldn't really form sentences, and he had a really hard time understanding. And at that point, I had only been studying French for 6 weeks. So that was like being thrown straight into the fire. I mean, I landed in France, and the next day I was in Belgium with no English anywhere. It was French 24/7. The person I was living with, I had to speak French with. And it was hard because learning languages are hard. You're trying to reprogram your brain, and you're trying to think in a different way, and you're trying to express yourself in ways that you've never expressed yourself before, and it does get really frustrating. But I won't say that let me rephrase that. There was no point in time where I ever thought, geez, I'm never gonna learn this language, because I was determined, and I really had it set in my mind that I was going to master the French language. And I don't think I got anywhere close, but I tried really, really, really hard. Yeah, so it was super difficult. But I remember there was one day we were coming back home on a train. This was probably a month and a half, 2 months into being in the French-speaking country, and my companion and I were sitting on the train coming back home from an appointment, and we were facing each other, and we started having a conversation. And I was really, really down on that particular day because we had like 2 or 3 appointments teaching people, and I didn't really contribute. I didn't feel like I was understanding anything, and I was super bummed. But on that train, my companion and I just started having a conversation, and at the end of it, I was like, wait, I understood what we said. And I had to like ask my companion, were we just speaking English? And he was like, no, we've been speaking French this whole time. And I guess in that moment, things just started to click. And that conversation acted as like a springboard of confidence, and I was able to like, from that point, have more confidence going into speaking, and things got a little bit easier after that. But coming back to America after spending 2 years in a French-speaking place was not quite as culturally shocking as I anticipated it to be. The most startling part was like being in a grocery store or like being out in public and not hearing French, because part of learning the language was I was paying very close attention to all the conversations going on around me. When we were on a train, or when we were at a restaurant, or when we were in a grocery store, I wasn't intentionally trying to eavesdrop. I was trying to see just how much I could understand and how much I could perceive around me. So, and maybe that's just to do with how I conditioned myself to learn the language, but because of that, because I was always listening for 2 years to all the French around me, it was startling to no longer hear that. But I didn't have any problem switching back to English. I mean, I did sometimes have a hard time searching for certain vocabulary words that I hadn't used in a while, but it was not as culturally shocking as I thought. So, what made me want to start photography? Well, that actually goes back to my mission. We were given iPad minis to use as just tools. We used them for everything, maps, for finding train times, for scheduling appointments. We had all of our religious books downloaded on there, all of the material that we had for teaching people, everything was on these iPads. But I mentioned that my mission was very difficult at times, most of the time. But one of the ways that I got through it was with photography that I would take with the iPad, and it had a really good camera for what it was. And being in France, I was surrounded by beautiful things, beautiful buildings, beautiful streets, beautiful landscapes when we were out in the country. I saw some of the most beautiful countryside I've seen in my entire life from all the trains that we would take. Just the cities were so beautiful. They were all built along rivers, which created some really cool imagery with the water and the trees and the bridges, and there's just so much to see and so much to take in that on the days that we were allowed to go and do shopping and stuff, I would spend the whole day going around the city taking pictures. And throughout the week, when we would get home for the day, we would spend 8 or 9 hours out working and talking to people and teaching people. And at the end of every day, we would come home and I would, write in my journal and wind down for the evening, but I would also edit the pictures that I took, and I would just spend a lot of time editing pictures. And that was a stress relief for me. It was something that there were very few things that I felt like that I could control, because I couldn't control if people were going to want to meet with us, and I just felt like there was not a whole lot that I could do, and it felt like we weren't being, like there was nothing that we were producing, and I felt like the photography was some type of creative release, so I could say, yes, I've been creating stuff. And although it wasn't for it had nothing to do with the message that we were trying to spread, it was keeping me sane somewhat, and it was motivating me to go out, because not only was I going out with the intent to find people, to teach, I was also going out looking for the beautiful things around me. And I think it was looking for the beauty around me that helped me fall in love with France. And that love for France, like I said earlier, is what motivated me to go through the hard times. So I really have a really deep spot in my heart for photography, because it really did keep me sane throughout my mission. And I know that my family appreciated seeing the pictures that I sent home, because they kind of felt like they were there with me. So what made me want to start the Command Valley podcast with my friends, and what do I like about it? Well, my friend Kogan, the guy interviewing me, has always talked about wanting to start a YouTube channel for anything. He had suggested many things. And I thought, well, I don't really feel like I'm that entertaining of a person. And I wouldn't say that I'm a perfectionist, but if I'm gonna do something, I'd like to do it at least halfway well. And at that time I didn't feel like I could really do something that well, and I wasn't really willing to put in the effort that it would take to make a YouTube channel function well. But one day I was just thinking a little bit more on that, and I was like, well, we get together and we're playing Magic every Friday anyways, and we play for a long time, and we all have a good time, and it's fun. Might as well set up some cameras, because we've got them, and record them and see what it looks like. And all of the other friends in the group, we latched onto that idea, and we're like, well, maybe we could do more than just filming gameplay videos. Maybe we can use our free time and make deck techs, or teach people how to build these Magic the Gathering decks. And that's kind of how it started. We just got together and said, let's try it, and we did it, and it's really escalated from there, and we take it really seriously. And what I like about it is it's brought us together as a friend group, and I've seen the friends in the friend group from a different perspective than I saw before. Before, they were just friends, best friends, we're really good friends, and now we're also kind of feel like co-workers. But it's really cool to see a lot of the skills that I didn't even know that my friends had, what they've brought to the table. And we've also met some new friends too. So I kind of like the scope that the podcast offers, of the people that we can meet, the places that we can go. I really like the potential that it has. What is one thing I'm looking forward to in 2020? Oh, maybe this is depressing. Nothing really in particular. So some goals that I have for 2020 is I'm trying to lose 15 pounds. I'm working on that. I'm really looking forward to the summer when I can get back out into photography and start being a little bit more active. I'm looking forward to taking my Blazer out, camping and taking it on some trips. The time that we finished it was a little bit later into the year, so I wasn't able to take it out very much. I'm looking forward to a lot of the content that we're going to be creating this year with our YouTube channel. There's a lot going on in the world of Magic the Gathering that if I were to talk about it would seem like I'm speaking French for all intents and purposes. But there's a lot happening in that realm, so I'm really excited to see where that takes us. And I am anticipating taking a trip back to France, or back to Europe, because I would like to go to Belgium. If my budget and time lets me, I will be going back there for probably a month or two, so I would be looking forward to that. So
we're kicking out the podcast. I'm just kidding.
What was that?
I said so we're kicking out the podcast.
I know, that's one of the reasons why I can't go, is I don't want to leave the podcast, but
Just do Skype.
I need to go back. But yeah, anyways.